Hey, what's up guys? Matt Laidlaw here with Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, the oldest, largest, and finest dealership in Los Angeles. So, the next review I'm going to be doing is on the new 2017 Fatboy S. So this was a new model last year in the 2016 model launch. It came out with the Slim S, and the big, I guess, new feature on this Fatboy is the fact that it has the 110 cubic inch motor. So it's part of the S series, which now encompasses 3 bikes. You've got the Fatboy S, the Slim S, and mid-model year launch in 2016 they came out with the Dyna Lowrider S. So as far as chassis wise, it is a softail chassis. I plan on making a video in the near future talking about the different chassis that Harley-Davidson comes out with. Basically, if you know what makes up the chassis and you kind of know the characteristics about the different Harley-Davidson chassis, that will give you a good general idea of how the bike is going to react, and the ride quality and everything else you need to know about the engine. So one thing about the Softail chassis is it does have the B motor, which is the balanced motor. So this is a counterbalanced motor. So at an idle, you're going to have significantly less vibration than you would with a rubber-mounted motor on pretty much every other model. Besides the Softail family, they're all rubber mounted, so you're going to see the engine shaking independently of the frame. So let me go into some of the features on the bike here. Okay, so you got 2 colors on this bike. This is the first one. This is Vivid Black, which is that glossy black finish, and you've also got Denim Black, which is oftentimes referred to as matte black. So I think there's pros and cons to each of the colors. I'm a big fan of the denim paint jobs that Harley-Davidson does, but the Vivid Black, I think some of the benefits of getting this on this bike is everything is more uniform. The struts, the forks, the headlamp, all the covers on the motor, it's more uniform with everything as a glossy black finish. It's a little bit of a contrast with the denim. I don't think it takes away from anything. I'd still get the denim over the Vivid Black, but that's just my personal preference. But one of the big things about the S models that makes them a little bit different and sets them apart from the regular Fatboy is the fact that they have the blacked out look to them, the blacked out treatment. So, all the engine components, the forks, the headlamp, the upper fork nacelle area, that's all black. The center console, the handlebars, everything's all blacked out. So there's some monetary value to that. If you were to try to take one of the Fatboys and black it all out, you're going to spend a lot of money doing that. So above and beyond the 110 motor, that's another benefit you get to these S models. Okay, so here's the second of the 2 colors. This is Denim Black, and you can kind of see what I was talking about earlier about the contrast between the paint on the fender and the tanks and the covers on the motor and like the black front end. It's a little bit different shade of black or texture of black, I should say. I prefer the denim black. I just really like that matte finish of paint, but it's not as uniform with like the fender struts and the rest of the bike. So the Fatboy S stays true with some of the main styling points of the Fatboy. And here you've got this bike has a ventilator air cleaner, so it's an exposed filter element. If you're riding in the rain or in heavy dust areas, you should definitely have that sock on there to protect the air cleaner exposed element there. If you're gonna do a desert ride or something like that, definitely put the air filter on there. So this bike has a 200 millimeter rear tire. It's part of where it gets its name, Fatboy. So you got blacked out pulley, belt guard, swing arm, blacked out primary cover, derby cover, blacked out front forks, center console. So the emblem on a Fatboy is very, very unique. This bike pays homage to the military and World War II. So you got the star and the two wings in USA. So a very unknown fact by most people that have these bikes, and really most Harley owners, is how the Fatboy got its name. Fatboy is a combination of the two names of the atom bombs that were dropped in World War II on Hiroshima, Little Boy and Fat Man. So they combined those two names and named it the Fatboy. So the wings on the emblem represent the two planes that dropped those bombs, and the lines on the wings represent the crew on those two planes that dropped the atom bombs. They don't talk about the origin of the name too much, because I'm assuming just because it's kind of politically incorrect, and Harley-Davidson sells a lot of these bikes to Asian countries on the Asian continent. So anyways, everything down to like the rotors, you got the blacked out treatment on it. So kind of in a nutshell, just to recap, guys, really what you're getting with the Fatboy S and really any S series bike is you're getting the 110 engine that was exclusively available to only the CVO bikes with a really high price tag. You now get the 110 at a fraction of the cost that you saw in the CVO bikes, and you get the all blacked out treatment. So you pay a few $1,000 more for the S, but it's definitely worth the money. So security comes as a standard option on the Fatboy S. You get 2 barrel keys and 2 fobs. The fobs haven't changed a whole lot since 2007. They have no button. They're basically a proximity sensor. When you get close to the bike, the alarm is deactivated. When you get away from the bike, it's activated, and it cuts the ignition electronically. So you may have noticed that there was very little vibration in the engine when it was running. Something you should know about all Softail models is the engine is hard mounted to the frame as opposed to being rubber mounted. So the way that Harley-Davidson has alleviated the vibration with the subtraction of the rubber mounted motor is they have a counterbalancing system in the Softail bikes. So you don't get that signature Harley-Davidson rumble and vibration and feel at a signal light at an idle in the Softails. Everything is real balanced and smooth on it. It still feels very much a Harley-Davidson. In fact, if I had to pick a bike that was very much quintessential Harley-Davidson and really has all the feel and the look and everything of what you'd expect from a Harley, a Softail definitely has that. The styling is really unique in the fact that on a Softail you don't have any of the visible rear suspension. Everything's all tucked up horizontally underneath the bike. That's to give it that hardtail look. So that's really one of the main things you get when you buy a Softail is you get a really clean looking bike, real simplistic looking bike that looks very nostalgic and classic. So what I wanted to do in this video as well is compare the Fatboy S to the other 2 versions of Fatboy that were available last year. And when I say last year, I'm referring to the 2016 model year. There were 3 different Fatboys that you could buy. And that is the regular Fatboy that you're looking at right now, the Fatboy Low, which I'm going to show you in just a second, and then the Fatboy S. So on the regular Fatboy, the Fatboy Standard, I'll refer to it as, you've got the twin cam 103 high output motor. That's one of the things that was new this year is you got the high output treatment to the 103. So that's the higher performance intake and a little bit different cam. It's what we saw on the 2014 touring bikes was the high output 103. So that was applied to the Softails in 2016. And there's really not a whole lot of difference in 2017 this year. It's basically the same bike with the exception of a few different color options. But as you can see, the regular Fatboy is all chromed out. So the belt guard, the primary cover, derby cover, rocker box covers, your forks. Now the forks are the aluminum, so if you were to purchase the chrome front end, that would give it a significant aesthetic facelift. But like your bars, your headlamp, your oil pan there, your horn cover, everything's all chromed out. So that's visually, that's one of the big differences between the S model and the regular Fatboy, is that the regular Fatboy is more of that classic look that everyone's kind of known the Fatboy to have. So and then of course you've got the 103 on this instead of the 110. So significantly less power than the 110 motor. These bikes weigh about 700 pounds approximately. That's running weight. So that 110 in this bike, the power to weight ratio is really good. Now as far as like the dimensions with the fenders and the gas tank and the bars and everything else like the light and everything, the dimensions are exactly the same. The center console, that's all very much the same. One of the things that they did brand new last year in the 2016 model year is they went to throttle by wire on all the Softail models. So you no longer have the two throttle cables coming out of the right hand grip there. And you got ABS as a standard option on this bike, and on the Fatboy standard, you have security as an upgrade at $395. So you get the security standard on the Fatboy S. Alright, so this next bike is the Fatboy Low. And this version of the Fatboy first debuted in 2010. And in 2010, it was kind of where the blacked out or dark custom look, as Harley-Davidson calls it, was kind of emerging and getting really popular. That trend is still very much popular among a lot of riders. But that was one of the big things that the Fatboy Low brought to the table, is kind of this bobber rat rod type styling and finishes to the bike. So as you notice, the cosmetics are very similar to the Fatboy S. And you got the black disc wheels. You've got denim paint jobs on these bikes. You can also get this bike in vivid black, but this particular color is the charcoal denim. It's kind of like a matte silver color. So the Fatboy Low, the other thing that this bike brought to the table is that it has the lowered Softail suspension, and the Fatboy S, that also has the lowered Softail suspension. So that's something important that you should know. The regular Fatboy has the standard height of the Softail suspension. There's basically two heights of Softails that come from the factory, and there's a standard height and there's a lowered height. So this is the lowered one. So the seat height is going to be lower on the Fatboy Low than it is the regular Fatboy, and that's the same for the Fatboy S. It's lower than the regular Fatboy. So there's pros and cons to that. It gives you that real lowered slam look when you're looking at the profile of the bike. But on the flip side of that, people should know that anytime you lower suspension, you're also reducing the amount of travel you have in that suspension. So you're not going to absorb those bumps, especially at high speeds, as effectively as the standard height Softails. So something to definitely keep in the back of your head when you're trying to decide on what Fatboy to buy. If you're a little bit shorter inseam, then the Fatboy Low would probably better suit you, because you'll be able to get your feet flat on the ground and more firmly planted when you're at a stop. So you can kind of see here that you've got blacked out components kind of sprinkled around. One of the cool things or finishes that Harley-Davidson introduced with the Fatboy Low was what they call satin chrome. If you look at some of the covers on the motor, like the primary drive and like the cam timer cover or transmission cover and like the mufflers there, it's not really chrome, it's like a dulled chrome. Like the rocker box covers there, you can see is like a flat chrome. They call that satin chrome. It's a really cool finish that I like a lot. But other than that, as far as the features and the motor and everything, this bike is the same as the regular Fatboy. You got the high output 103. You got ABS standard, and you got security as an upgrade at $395. So I apologize about the glare, but here's a kind of a snapshot of all three prices on the bikes. So the one all the way to the left is the 2017 Fatboy S, and this is MSRP on the bike. So with the $200 California emissions, since this is the beautiful and highly environmentally conscious state of California. So $20,799 for the Fatboy S. And then for the regular Fatboy, that which is in the middle, $17,294. This one does have the security system for an extra $395. And the one all the way to the right is the Fatboy Low. So you can see the Fatboy Low is in between the regular Fatboy and the Fatboy S. So $17,899. So with the $200 California emission, you're a little over 18 there. And this Fatboy Low does not have the security. So there you go. I want to mention too that the Fatboy S comes with cruise control as a standard option. Now the electronic cruise control was enabled because of the throttle by wire. So on these other two Fatboys, you can pay for it and get it installed on the bikes, but it does not come that way from the factory. So on the Fatboy S, you have cruise control as standard from the factory. Another feature you have on the Fatboy S that's unique to the S series and the CVO Softails is the hydraulic clutch. So you can see the clutch master cylinder by my left hand there. The hydraulic clutch is nice. After riding my Street Glide for a long time with the hydraulic clutch, I definitely prefer it. You've got more of a predictable actuation of the friction zone and everything when you're using your clutch. You don't have to worry about your cable going out of adjustment and stretching and things like that, and you don't have to worry about constantly getting it adjusted. Not that cable clutches constantly need adjustment, but they do need to be serviced. So yeah, the hydraulic clutch is a pretty nice feature. So let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect when you're riding a Fatboy S. So the ride is very much what you'd expect from a Softail. So it's a really comfortable ride, on surface streets and highway from time to time, depending on the condition of the highway. I will say that when you're riding high speeds on the freeway and things, especially if the freeways are in bad shape, much like they are in the LA County area, the Softail isn't the best ride that's out there. A lot of what you get when you buy a Softail, like I've mentioned before, is you get that really classic look that looks like a hardtail. So the suspension you have on the rear end of these bikes is all tucked up horizontally underneath the bike, which serves more of an aesthetic purpose than it does a functionality and performance purpose, to be honest. So the Softails are really good cruiser bikes. They have a very classic feel and look to them, and the ride is very, very classic ride. But if you're looking to really crank on a bike and hit the canyons and ride high speeds on the freeway and do state to state, this bike is probably not the best bike. If you're looking for a real classic Harley that has a lot of tradition behind it and just real classic engineering to it and look and appeal to it, then this is a great bike. And when I say this is a great bike, the Softails in general is what I'm referring to. The other thing is, not everybody when they're buying a Harley wants a big touring bike with the saddlebags and the fairing and the radio. some people just want real classic, simplistic styling and design to their bike, and so this would be a great bike. If you're not a guy that wants a big, tall touring bike, but you want to get on a Harley, maybe you just want to go down to the local restaurant and cruise the streets, occasional trip to down to the coast, the beach, or whatever. This is a great bike. It's very adequate. And I know a lot of people don't want to muscle around, a big 900-pound Harley-Davidson either. That has real tall suspension on it. So, again, this would be a great bike. One of the things that is real noticeable on a Softail is the weight is distributed really low on these bikes as well, and that's accomplished by two different things: the really low suspension and the fact that the motor is hard mounted to the frame. The motor's lower to the ground as well. So a lot of people that are new to the Harley world, when they sit on a Softail like a Fatboy S or Fatboy Low, one of the things they notice is that it's real easy to pick up off the kickstand. So yeah, the Softail is a great alternative to the guy that wants a Harley that doesn't necessarily want to first pay the price tag of a touring bike, which are between $20,000 and $40,000, but they want a nice Harley that has a decent chassis that's going to be comfortable, and something a little bit smaller, and something that doesn't have all the extra cargo room with the saddlebags and all that stuff. I would almost compare this bike to, if I had to find something in the car world to compare it to, something like a Dodge Challenger or like a Chevy Camaro, something that's just been a staple of the Harley-Davidson lineup for a real long time, and still has very classic lines and look to it, and you kind of know what you're getting. You're getting a nice, fast, real stylish bike, and so that's kind of what I would compare it to in the car world. And with that 110 cubic inch motor in here, you really can give this bike has a lot of punch to it if you just roll the throttle on. This has plenty of get up and go, so it's very much what I would describe as like a muscle bike. Something real big and beefy, and plenty of torque, and really good if you just want to punch it to hit a nice flat straight stretch of road. So I guess now let me talk to you about what this bike cannot do very well, and that is, because it's a lowered bike, the turn angle, the lean angle on this bike is very poor. So if you're someone who likes to hit up the canyons and really carve and lay the bike down on its side, in the turns, this is not the bike for you. This is a really low slammed profile bike, and much like a lot of the Softails, like your Slim, your Deluxe, Fatboy Low, these are the lowered Softails, and they just don't have a very good lean angle. You can see there just a second ago, I drugged the floorboard for a second, and that wasn't intentional. The lean angle really is not dramatic at all on this bike. So you're not going to have a whole lot of problems. I mean, it can do all those things like the canyon and whatnot, but just not real well. If you've got someone in your group that you're riding with that has a bike with a decent lean angle, especially if they're on like a sport bike or something like that, they're going to leave you in the dust. So yeah, not a good lean angle. You're gonna really have to slow down in the turns, and really that's all there is to it. If you're hitting a turn, you just got to slow down a little bit so you can make that turn without having to lean the bike too dramatically. So I don't know if you could see or tell, but that last straightaway, I punched it pretty good, and this thing, it's a lot of fun to ride. And I was riding this bike during this test ride real gently. I wasn't doing anything near what it's capable of doing, but the power is definitely there. It's a lot of fun just to gun this thing and just feel all the torque that this bike has. As far as the size that this bike best suits, as far as riders go, really anything from about 5'5", 5'6", and up to about 6 feet is the best height for a bike like this. I'm 6'6", and just the frame and the seating position relative to the foot controls and the bars was just too small for me. I'm pretty scrunched up on this bike. You can kind of see where my knees are in relationship to the gas tank. My knees are high up there, and I'm just way too scrunched up. So if I got a bike like this, I'd have to get a different seat that pushes me back a little bit, and adjust the bars and things like that. But if you're 6 foot and under to about 5'5", 5'4", the bike will fit you just fine. I will say that there's plenty of parts for these Softails as well. The Softail chassis and frame has been relatively unchanged for a long time as far as fitment of parts and whatnot. So it's a great bike to customize. A lot of guys that start to take their bike to shows, that run the show circuit and stuff, use Softails to customize because you've got a really good platform where a lot of different parts will fit this bike. But yeah, if you're a real tall guy, this bike is probably not the best choice for you unless you do some pretty serious modifications. So let me pull over here. I'll give you guys kind of a walk around shot of the bike after it's been running for a little bit and at an idle here. So the aesthetics on this thing are absolutely gorgeous. Harley-Davidson was the first motorcycle manufacturer to really start giving bikes from the factory this real blacked out, as they call it, dark custom look. A lot of manufacturers have kind of followed suit, like your Victories. They call it the 8-ball look, I believe, which they started doing it after Harley-Davidson started making a lot of these blacked out bikes. But the aesthetics on this thing are really, really nice. I mean, it's a gorgeous bike, and this is right out of the box. It looks great. There's not a whole lot you got to do to it. Maybe bars or something like that would be a nice addition to this thing. I will say that this bike too, and all the S series bikes, including the CVOs as well, are all shipped from the factory with synthetic fluids. So that's something a little bit different than your normal bikes that are shipped with just the regular oil. So let me take a second here and kind of talk to you guys about who I would recommend this bike to. First of all, if you're a brand new rider, never learned how to ride a motorcycle, and you're looking to buy your first bike, this is probably not the best bike for you. Harley does make some bikes that are real good for new riders, and that would be the Street 500, the Street 750, and the Sportsters. One could argue that those are a good first bike as well. But this bike has more power than you need for a brand new rider. Plus, if the inevitable happens and you drop the bike or something like that, that's going to be a really expensive drop on something like this. Whereas like some other less expensive learner bikes, if you drop the bike, it's not a big deal, not a huge loss. But for the most part, when you drop a brand new Harley-Davidson, or any Harley-Davidson for that matter, you're going to do a lot of damage to the bike, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to fix up a Harley. So who I would recommend this bike to, if you have any type of motorcycle experience in the past, maybe you're coming off of dirt bikes or something like that, or maybe you're coming from a different competitive model or a different make or something like that, this is a really easy bike to ride, especially if you're concerned about the increase in weight that you might have when you start to ride a Harley. This, because the weight is slung so low, is a really easy bike to handle. The controls are real simplistic, the balancing is really good. It's an easy bike to just jump on and start riding. So if you're looking for just a really classic Harley-Davidson that's real iconic, that's real recognizable, that will unmistakably is a Harley-Davidson, this is a great bike for you. If you're really planning on getting out on the road, hitting the freeway at high speeds, and again, like rougher freeways, on smooth freeways, there's no problem. But you get out like inner city or real urban areas that are older, that have older roads and things, probably not the best bike in the world for you. It's a cruiser. It's very much a cruiser bike. So if you're someone that wants more of a performance-oriented ride and suspension, and that's another thing about the suspension, guys, is there's not a whole lot you can do to customize the suspension. I mean, there's a couple companies out there that make a little bit softer suspension, but if you really want to make this a real cushioned ride, there's really not a whole lot of options. I mean, not that the ride is bad. The ride is really good. You are on a Harley, and it's a very ergonomically a really favorable ride style, and the positioning of your body is really good. But yeah, if you want a real slim minimalist Harley-Davidson, then you want to do things like the suspension, and you really plan on cranking real hard and really beefing up the bike, a Dyna is probably a better option for you, because the lean angle is a lot better on a Dyna than it is on something like this. So, but if we're looking for just kind of a muscle bike to look really good, have really nice clean cosmetics and lines to it, real traditional looking Harley-Davidson, and you just want to punch the sucker every once in a while, this is an awesome bike, great bike. So I hope I helped you guys out. If you have any questions, like always, leave them in the comment section. I'm real good about getting back to people and answering any questions you might have. If I was able to help you out in this video in any way, hit that like button, give me some credit, and like always, if you want to see more content like this in the future, subscribe to my channel. I plan on coming out with more videos on a more frequent basis. Again, this is Matt Laidlaw from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson. Thanks for watching, guys.